Please welcome up Alex Oliver of Igloo Studio.
Thank you, Brady, and thank you for inviting me here to speak today. As you can see by the title of my presentation, we're particularly focused on something that we refer to as sustainability, and it's also referred to in the public media as green design or green building. For a quick background, though, I want to just reintroduce myself. I'm Alex Oliver, co-founder of Igloo Studios, and we're a company that's particularly interested in the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, or the AEC industry. And we create 3D video and other data visualization to help make buildings and the process of building them a bit more efficient. So I just want to kind of briefly cover what are some of the things that we're working on. We, in this case, there's an animation going on in a video where we were charged with taking something like Google Earth and also mashing it up with some educational video to talk a bit about how forests that are sustainably harvested can actually be an okay resource for bringing wood into the built environment. It turns out wood's not actually all that bad or evil. It may just be how it's actually harvested. So we create some education for architects and builders to learn more about that online. We also work with creating 3D tools. In this case, we're translating building product catalogs, so building product manufacturers that create the appliances and the products that are in our homes, translating those into 3D models that architects and builders can use to not only design a bit more efficiently, but also to communicate information about the sustainability of those products. So what is the energy usage of the product? Will it contribute to making the home a more sustainable place? And then we also create applications, so more data visualization online. This is a really simple web application using the Google Earth plugin and the Google Earth API that we did for a large real estate company, commercial real estate company that has warehouses around the country where they needed to take a look at what these warehouses looked like and how they were impacting local environments in terms of how the inventory coming in and out of those warehouses was affecting the community. So what is sustainability? Like I said, sustainability is often also called green or green design or green build. You can define it a number of ways. The way that we like to talk about it and the way that I'm proposing to talk about it today is just what we can do when we're building homes, remodeling homes, operating homes, that we can continue to do sustainably for some time. So are we replenishing the resources that we're taking from the earth? Are we able to do that, or are we doing it in a fashion that is not sustainable? And then also, are we able to create homes that, or remodel our existing housing stock so that they're not wasting or polluting the environment at a rate that we can't clean up? And it actually turns out that sustainability has everything to do with location. So in the AEC industry, one of the very first things that you even care about at all is, where is that home already built, or where will it be built? So I wanted to talk about a big opportunity that I see for hopefully other developers here at this conference. But first I want to talk about some of the problems that we face in the AEC industry. One is data overload. There's a lot of, you would think that in this industry we'd already have this figured out. And it turns out that there's a lot of great research, a lot of great thinking and minds that go into figuring out how bad are we polluting the environment by what we're doing, how much would it take for us to change, what kinds of materials will create that change. But it turns out that there's so much data that it's paralyzing a lot of the people in the industry. And then the other factor is the people that operate within this industry, the architects, the engineers, and the builders, they don't work together all that well. And it's not because they're stubborn or anything like that. They're just incentivized differently. The engineers are creating the products that go into the homes, but the architects may not know which ones to use based on where the location of their building is. The architects create a really sustainable design concept, but it's not at all feasible when it comes to the cost structure of building the home. You can see there can be a lot of factors that come into play. But we're not really moving fast enough to address climate change, and buildings are one of the biggest wasters. In fact, buildings account for somewhere near 40% of all the CO2 emissions in the United States. Cars get a really big, I guess, a big PR push. It's a little more obvious when you see the exhaust coming out of the cars, but actually creating a building and operating the building accounts for nearly 3 times as much as cars do in the US. And what's this have to do with location? Again, it's got everything to do with location. Where your building is built, if it's out in the desert of Phoenix or if it's in the cold of Boston, you're going to have different needs. Heating and cooling needs, different resources that are scarce or plentiful around you. So, those are some of the problems that we're facing. I wanted to talk about some of the opportunities that I feel that we have and some of the things that we're trying to address as a company in a very small way, and I hope that there are others out there that are addressing it in a far larger way. First, I want to talk about the incentive, though, to do anything about this. Hopefully there are 2 incentives. We hope that one incentive, of course, is to make our environments a more sustainable place, a healthier place, and that's good enough in and of itself. But there's also a lot of money that's being dedicated to this. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act that was signed into place by the Obama administration has $5 billion allocated to something known as weatherization. And that's weatherization of the existing U.S. housing stock. I'll touch on what that means in just a second. But first, I want to talk about what our opportunity here is. We need to create awareness, education, and hopefully action based off of those first 2 points in order to create any sort of rapid change. Like I said, we're not acting fast enough in this AEC space. So awareness. First, let me just tell you a bit more about what I meant by weatherization. So there's the Weatherization Assistance Program. And that program has been around since before the 2009 American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, but it only had about $200 million of funding before, in this particular instance, it was given $5 billion. So you can see that this is a major shift in policy in the political climate. Now, what it's going to do is it's going to provide $5 billion to weatherize about 1 million homes. Now, I talked about the U.S. housing stock. There are 128 million homes, more or less, residential homes across the U.S. So this is going to address a very small portion of the homes, but it's a good start. It's good seed money. It's also dedicated towards the lowest income or the poor people that own homes in the country. The reason for that is, of those 128 million homes, most of them are fairly old, older than, say, the last 5 years. And it turns out that those are the biggest energy wasters within this whole U.S. housing market. So we often hear about the newest homes being built with the newest technologies, but these homes, the ones that we already have, expend about 40% of all of the energy that is produced to operate these homes, just because they're leaky, they don't have good insulation, maybe their windows are old, single pane, a lot of just things that happen over time that the weather kind of takes care of. So we're going in as a country, and we're trying to repair that, and we have money to fund about 1 million of these homes, tightening them up. We also need to create education. One of the things that Igloo Studios, my company, is working on right now, we're working with a few states around the country to create educational portals online where we can teach the people that are going to go out in the field and actually perform this work. So there are the energy auditors that need to go into the home and assess, hey, what's wrong here? How can we fix it? There's also the installers that need to learn how to install insulation, to repair gaps around the windows, etc. But there needs to be a bit more action. Like I said, we've only really addressed 1 million homes, or we haven't even done that yet, but that's what we're planning to do. over the course of this year. What we need to do, though, is create action, I think, in the other 127 million homes. I think that in order to do this, we're going to have to create more usable, more fun applications for the homeowners of those 127 million homes who maybe won't get funding from the government, but they're going to see a lot of news about this. They're going to want to do something about it. And I think that we have an opportunity to do something. We do it all of the time in the technology space. You know, we're able to get a bunch of people to contribute to this online encyclopedia thing. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it seems to be pretty big news in the technology space. We get people all the time to contribute to maps and create lots of incredible mashups with local information that we couldn't possibly do with just $5 billion. I think that we can get a lot of people to start speaking with one another on a community level, on a local level, start showing progress that they're creating in their local community to repair the homes and improve, I guess, weatherize their homes. I just want to touch on some of the things that are, again, especially important about the location of homes and how we don't have this figured out yet. Not my company, not anybody in the architecture, engineering, construction space, but I think that there are a lot of technologists, hopefully in this room, that have got some pretty big ideas of how we can do this. We already know that mapping creates a really good way to overlay a lot of dense information on top of a place. We've got different sun, wind, solar orientation, zoning, terrain, all kinds of things are being overlaid onto maps. We need to create an application that makes this something where we're understanding a bit more about how to create more sustainable communities. We also need to interrelate people, places, and resources. One really big deal in architecture is that when you're designing a space, in order for it to be accredited to be a quote-unquote green or sustainable home, you need to recruit materials and products that are located nearby, within 500 miles, to get any sort of credit. That's because it takes a lot of transportation, emissions from transportation to bring those products into place. We don't really have a really easy-to-use application right now to track all of that stuff. Same thing with resources, water, how close are we to the water that we need to use, other things like that. And the people, we need to know where the local experts are, how to bring them in. And lastly, and I think this might be the most tough thing, but potentially the most rewarding, is how do we interrelate these sort of emotional data sets? What's the community participation already? How do we see how excited people are around us and what their will is to do this? What has my neighbor done? What have people down the street done? What's a good case study? And is there a local political climate? Are there credits for doing stuff like this? Are there ways for us to benefit? So I don't have any answers. I guess that's why I'm here. I'm here to see if anybody else is working on anything that's related to sustainable design, sustainable build. We're working right now, Igloo Studios, with several states at creating the awareness and the education aspect of this whole project, trying to get people to understand that weatherizing existing homes and then taking it a few steps from there and starting to build these environmentally safe and healthy communities, it's going to kind of start from the ground up. It's got to start from the people up. And if you have any sort of applications that would either be applicable now or that we could work with you on to create that action part, I'd look forward to talking to you. So thanks for having me, and I hope you have a great rest of your conference.